It's so mysterious.
This is who we are.
This is who we are.
WADR. Attention, ladies and gentlemen.
It's time to embrace a youthful mindset and envision your future. Take the lead is in your world.
Take the lead is in your world.
This platform serves as a space for engagement designed to equip young people to become effective leaders. They are actively contributing, creatively engaged, and determined in various fields. And now, this is Take the Lead.
The world belongs to the young people. They are the drivers of positive change. They are leading efforts to secure a sustainable future. So as young people, we say hello and welcome to Take the Lead with us today on West Africa Democracy Radio, the space where young people are called to action. I am Augustine Curley, your host, and we are seeking to identify measures needed to reduce school dropout rates among young people in rural communities. This is essential because in West Africa, school remains the best springboard to employment and independence for millions of young people. Yet, in the rural parts of our various countries, completing one's education is still a daunting challenge today. Every year, thousands of students drop out of school before finishing secondary education. The causes could include household poverty, they could include shortage of teachers, inadequate infrastructure, but also child labor, early marriage, and teenage pregnancy. There could be other triggering factors to consider, and that's why we have reputable individuals as our guests for this topic. So wherever you are listening from, stay with us and also share your thoughts with us right in the comment section of our live feed, Facebook and YouTube channels at WADR English, and we will read them out loud and clear. On my immediate left is Aisha Cello, and Aisha is an admin manager at WAVE in Senegal. Many of you are aware of WAVE, and it's a privilege to have her in our studio today. We took upon the time to engage her, make sure that she leaves the office, come in the studio, and share her experience with young people. How are you doing, Aisha, and welcome.
Hi, Augustine. Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be part of this amazing.
At Donis Bem in Senegal, you'll be telling us more about this Donis Bem. But welcome, Ibrahim. How are you doing?
Thank you very much for having me, and my colleague, of course, thank you very much for being here. And education is such a wide and diverse sector, and it's very important that we are going to engage and analyze the problems that education has in Africa, especially in Senegal.
All right. Would you mind just throwing a light on this Donis Bem?
Oh, thank you very much. Donis Bem is a very prominent school in Senegal, and Donis Bem, we're the sector of Bem that allows or gives the opportunity to people that speak English to do 2 years in Senegal and the remaining in other parts of the world, mostly in Anglophone-based countries.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. We also have Sahadatu Ali, and Sahadatu is a research, gender, and inclusion lead at Africa Education Watch. She's joining us from Ghana. How are you doing, Sahadatu? Welcome.
Thank you very much, Augustine, and I'm fine. And hello to our panelists in the studio.
How is Ghana today?
Oh, Ghana is good. Today we are not experiencing rain. The sun is quite up today. Yeah.
Interesting. Welcome. We are privileged to have you with us today. Plus you, our amazing listeners and viewers. Together, we can make this better. Well, according to UNESCO, Sub-Saharan Africa remains the region of the world with the highest number of out-of-school children and young people. Why poverty remains one of the primary causes of school dropout, it is no longer the only one or the only factor. Growing insecurity in several countries in the region also deprives many young people of their right to education. Long distances to school, inadequate teaching and learning materials, and poor infrastructure negatively impacting educational outcomes. Let's quickly listen to WADR's Christopher Atichu as he reports on the situation in the Ghana's Savannah region.
Always sit on one thing. 4 or 3 people always sit, so we squeeze each other.
They are lying on the floor, they are struggling to write, and so most of them will not be able to come out with the best in terms of their education.
It is a Thursday morning in Damongo, the capital of Ghana's Savannah region. As the sun rises and community members prepare to face another day, children begin the long journey to school. Many walk, while those with bicycles offer lift to their friends. Executive Director of Education Policy Research and Advocacy Organization, Africa Education Watch, EduWatch, explains that the distance from home to school can be upwards of 10 kilometers.
There are about 4,000 primary schools in Ghana that do not have junior high schools. And 60% of primary schools in the northeast and Savannah regions do not have their junior high schools. So when children complete primary 6, it becomes a journey to the next community where there's junior high school. And you know how sparsely located these communities are, and then they drop out.
When fatigue sets in, the children beg for lift from any moving vehicle. For pupils from the St. Anne's Catholic Primary School, the long distance traveled brings them to a building without proper tables and chairs. Kashen Tukasha Yusufu is a primary 6 pupil.
Sometimes we always sit on one thing. 4 or 3 people always sit, so we squeeze each other.
Assembly member for the area, Abraham Anapansa, agrees.
If you find some of these things happening in the 21st century, where students have to learn under modernized infrastructure and facilities, and you find some of these things happening, it becomes saddening, and it appears as if we are really not building the education that will turn these children into positive, critical thinkers for our country.
Despite the challenges, the children have big dreams to rise above the hurdles and build a brighter future for themselves and their communities.
I want to be a fire service.
You want to be a fire service?
Lawyer.
A lawyer?
A lawyer.
You want to be a lawyer?
For WADR, I am Christopher Aticho.
What a nice one there from Christopher Atichu, producing that report all the way from Ghana's Savannah region. Now, you listen to some young people, some kids, an instructor, and of course, head of that region, explaining the situation about challenges regarding children being in school and some not in school. Let's firstly look at education as a whole, given the importance of education for which we want young people to be into school. You as an instructor, please share light on this first, Ibrahim.
As you said earlier, education in Africa especially is one of the ways out. If for some people it's the only way out. So it's very important, especially in developing countries, that we diversify our educational sector. One thing, being from Sierra Leone, one thing we had recently was free education. And what really that meant was not only limiting education to those that are in the city areas, but expanding it to the rural areas, and especially emphasizing on young girls being educated. We say if you feed a man, so where you feed a woman, you educate a woman, you educate a generation. So it has to be diversified. I think it's for education to be impactful, and that is something that's been lacking in Africa. You spoke about insurgencies, and if you look in the northern parts of Mali, Burkina, where they're trying to implement Sharia law, which limits education to the girls. So we're seeing the impact of that in those regions. So, as you said again, education is a force that will release a lot of people from poverty. It's the only way out for most people, especially in Africa. So it's something that's very essential and very important for our growth in our region.
Well, Aisha could tell us more about what it means for a woman to be educated, what it means for a girl to be educated.
It means a lot because...
Please speak to the microphone. Thank you.
Okay, Augustine. I think that for a woman and for a girl, it means a lot because, as my friend here just said, it's about impact. And unfortunately, when you travel in rural areas in Senegal, you can just notice that half of kids among, aged 6 to 16 are out of the formal school system. And the major part of them are girls, and which is very sad actually. Hi, I'm talking about the school drop. We can notice that 51% of students which are out of the system which drop are in rural areas.
Okay.
Yes, and 21% compared to 21% in urban areas. These are alarming figures. Yes. So I think that for that we might, need to go and check the roots, the causes.
Indeed, it's important to check the root causes of these challenges. But like you said, Aisha, also this is reflected in UNICEF's or UNESCO's report when it comes to sub-Saharan Africa, the school dropout rate. But let's hear from Sahadatu. What do you make of this figure that sub-Saharan Africa constitutes or represents a very huge portion of school dropout rate? And what does it mean for the sub-region? You can please check your microphone, Sahadatu.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So I was saying that analysis or conclusion is very accurate. And then when you look at the sub-Saharan region, our educational problems are similar, if not the same. We have the same problem. So you come to Ghana, and then the major problem or the major cause of school dropouts will be the infrastructure problem. So we have primary schools that do not have JHS. So at the JHS level, at the primary JHS transition, you have students dropping out due to distance to school. And then even before you get to the primary level, which is grade 6, pre-primary, which is preschool, we have primary schools that do not have nursery and then kindergarten schools. So you find out that when you look at our national data, most times our gross enrollment is higher than our net enrollment, which means that even for students that are enrolling in preschool, they are overage. You don't enroll at the right time. And a major cause is that parents are not motivated to take their kids to school early. So in Ghana, we have a campaign. We have a campaign which is right age enrollment. So we do sensitization to remind parents that they need to take their wards to school by 4 to 5 years. You should have started school. And then at the primary to JHS transition, which I mentioned earlier, because of distance to school, teenage pregnancy, which all are rooted in poverty, you have students dropping out. And then when you get to the secondary, which is grade 9 to grade 10 transition, in Ghana, we call it JHS, junior high secondary, going to the senior high secondary. There's also some students that are left behind. And this is due to, we have a computerized school placement system. And then there are times that the system places students as day students in other regions outside where they stay, or they are assigned courses which they have not uh, chosen for themselves, so they are not able to go. What happens mostly is that for even those that are able to take up those admissions, it means that the parents have to spend extra money to look for accommodation because they are day students. So they need to find accommodation close to the school, which is very expensive. So you have a number of students, even though secondary education is also free in Ghana, education from preschool all the way to secondary, which public schools, from pre-primary to secondary is free.
Okay.
But then these barriers, as I mentioned, are there, which keeps students out of school.
All right. But are these barriers old age problems for you, Ibrahim, or they are just new phenomenons that the region is experiencing?
I believe these are old age problems. Analyzing the problems of education in Africa goes back to colonial times. You know, the French and the British, they put systems in place that limit, the way students can express themselves and the way that people can get access to education. First, they did it through the churches. Then after that, after they've colonized us, they limited us. They do not find ways to improve the educational system. And we joke and laugh about these things on social media as we see the Chinese learning actual skills and us in Africa still going through the colonial systems. My dear colleague here being at WAVE, I believe they had the same thing with the population, because when WAVE came with an African concept, 80 to 90% of the population were not exposed to that type of technology. So they had to actually put people on the ground to go and sensitize, everybody that, okay, if you put your money in your phone, somebody's not going to steal it. So the education is not just in the class, but it has to deal with general sensitization, which that's a problem that was developed during the colonial times. They wanted to limit and have a few class of Africans to be educated to manipulate the rest. So it's something that has been going on for a long time. And we're happy we're seeing young startups and tech companies like Wave. They're trying to change that system. And also, I like to emphasize this also at Dunis. That's what we try to do also. We know that our youth are capable of being at the same par with any other youth in different parts of the world. So we give them that confidence, and we empower them in that way. So it's been a problem that's it's been since colonial times, but with technology and with social media now, I think we can break that if we're willing to.
What's about you, Aisha? What do you think of it?
I think the point is important because, like what he just said, joins, the economic pressures that goes with that. We know that many children, families in rural areas, they rely on children for agricultural labor. And unfortunately, it forced those kids to choose between, an immediate survival economy and a long-term schooling, which can be hard for them to choose at the end of the day. So yeah, the economic pressure is real, but also the bad infrastructure. My sister from Ghana just said, we saw in our when we go in rural areas, we can see that classrooms are sometimes shelters, precarious shelters. Yes, are used for classrooms. So this is a big problem, because I think that if this cannot be improved, the dropout rate can get even worse, because
I really want to know how does maybe poor infrastructure have children dropping out of school?
Oh yeah, the bad infrastructure. If a kid is not in the best conditions for study, he cannot be, even the teachers that go with him cannot be in the best psychological conditions to accompany him, because we saw that the teachers, they complain about incentives. The teachers will be like, okay, they have poor conditions of work. They don't have good housing stipend. They don't have financial bonuses. So this might lead to a whole crash in the system. So not only the kid, but also the teachers that goes with them are not in the, the proper conditions.
All right. You earlier spoke about agriculture. You spoke about child labor,
Yeah.
livestock farming as well. Considering this is a major issue for parents in rural parts of the country, parents also depend on the kids. Like after school, you go on the farm and you do your work.
Yeah.
What role do parents play in these barriers that we have, considering children to be dropping out of school today?
I mean, can we blame those parents? It's a whole educational problem. They're just repeating what they've been taught to be. I mean, they're just repeating the same schema. So we are in charge of changing things, but I think that for our parents, it's already too late. For our parents in rural areas, for most of them, it's already too late to understand that things have to be changed. I think that we are the actual actors. Yes.
But what would you say about that, Sahadatu? What would you say about these parents in rural areas? They depend on the children to help them on the farm, in the agricultural area, to also produce for the families. Mayu, these are areas some of these families get money to pay the tuition of their children. What would you say about that?
Well, I wouldn't say it's bad. It's been with us, and it's true. Some of these things that we learn our culture, we learn how to do things around the house. So I wouldn't say children helping their parents on the farm is wrong. But when the children graduate from that to being breadwinners of the family, that's when it becomes the problem. So in Ghana, the new phenomenon is that you have boys especially dropping out of school and then moving to mining areas to do what we call a galamsey, which is small-scale mining in Ghana, to support their family. Remember I mentioned earlier that when children don't enroll at the right age, they become overage, and overage children are at a higher risk of dropping out. So by the time they are 15, 16, 17 years, parents are expecting them to be breadwinners, to bring income home. And for them to be effective at this, they drop out of school and then go and then start working. We also have the phenomenon of underage girls moving from the rural parts into the city to do what we call kayaye. They are head porters. So you go to the market, you buy your stuff, and there are these young girls that help you to carry it. Some of these girls are girls that have dropped out of school to come and then earn a living. And then you asked earlier whether this has been with us since the beginning, and I think it has always been with us. For someone from the gender background, let me talk about the gender background. Early marriage has always been with us. I remember growing up in Ghana, we spent a whole decade campaigning for girls to be sent to school. So we can see that things have improved. But then, so girls are allowed to go to have basic education and then have secondary education. But then when they have to continue, then the pressure comes in again. You are growing up, you need to settle and then get married. So we cannot leave the campaign now. We need to continue doing the sensitization. And then from the gender perspective also, there's the issue of teenage pregnancy. In Ghana currently, I think as of 2024, the average teenage pregnancy rate in Ghana was 100,000 every year. Each year, 100,000 girls get pregnant. And some of these girls drop out of school. Yes, and then there's also the issue of poverty, which makes parents expect their children to work and then supplement their household income. And I'll go back to say that this is where government interventions like come in to help. So beyond the livelihood improvement programs that we have in Ghana, we have a program called LEAP where government has identified some poor households and then they support them, give them a monthly stipend. Beyond that, we have the school feeding program where children from preschool to grade 6 are fed one hot meal lunch a day in school. And our problem is that these children that are in grade 6, they are the same children that transition to JHS, but the policy does not extend to JHS. So a child that was motivated to go to school because of the lunch they get at primary, if they are not getting that same meal at JHS, then they may be forced to drop out. And then we also started with the teenage pregnancy. Our research indicated that some of it is linked to poor menstrual hygiene management. So there are girls that got pregnant because their parents could not afford sanitary pads, so they had to fall on men outside, and then they had to sleep with them before they buy the sanitary pad for them. So last year, our government introduced a free sanitary pad initiative, and where they distribute sanitary pad, sanitary products for girls in upper primary to secondary school. So in all, what I want to say is that yes, poverty plays a role. Our parents may have their beliefs that keeps pulling us back.
Okay.
But as government must come in and then put in the right initiatives that will help to cushion parents and then motivate parents to take their children to school.
Okay, that's interesting. We will look at whether girls are still mostly the people dropping out of school than boys. What would you say about that? It's been a long-term problem coming that girls are often the one dropping out of school because of maybe teenage pregnancy or other activities, homework or housekeeping jobs that they will want to do. The parents holding them back. They go to school lately because they have to prepare the house in the morning. What would you say about that? But one other argument would be that the boys too are also taken out by their fathers. They need to go on the farm, they need to get some firewood, they need to get other things, draw water, ensure that the yard is clean. What would you say about that, Ibrahim?
I believe it's something that's balanced nowadays. Girls naturally in African society have been deemed to be the caretakers of the house, which limits them. If she has to study and she has to wake up early in the morning and work, prepare food, I don't think most people have that energy to go and learn all day, And one thing we overlook is migration. Migration has been something that has limited, girls from or boys and girls in Africa from growing their full potential in education. Now we see 15, 16-year-old kids trying to cross over the Libyan Sea or trying to go to Qatar or Saudi to work as housemaids. We see that nowadays. So I think it's something that's balanced. It's not like back then when it was mostly girls, but we also see now the boys are also leaving school early to search for greener pastures. I believe my colleague in Ghana just mentioned that most boys in Ghana now leave to go to mining areas where they can get quick cash, you know, and that's is also prevalent with the females going to these Arab countries to work as housemaids to also get quick cash. So something that's balanced, and we need to find a solution for that. So nowadays, migration has played a huge role. Instead of and the parents are not even pushing them again, you know, from leaving school, but migration and searching for a greener pasture.
Okay, do you agree with the idea that it is balanced, or you still believe that you as a female, young girls are mostly the ones dropping out of school than boys?
I mean, talking about gender disparities, while boys will drop off in rural areas, of course, while boys will drop off for labor, for agricultural labor, women will drop because of household responsibilities and early marriages. If you go to Futa here in Senegal, many of my parents, my Fulani parents, they marry girls very early. And unfortunately, that leads to a high, even death rate, because they will carry pregnancies they cannot, handle because their bodies are too young. And of course, it leads to a high dropout school rate. So yeah, girls, I think that girls are the the bigger victims.
But talking about poverty too, and nowadays we have part-time jobs, where a young man can take 2 or 3 hours and make some money. A young lady will take 2 or 3 hours and make some money. It is either on the internet, it is either through physical work. Are these factors also contributing to making young people not want to stay in school when they can be at home in 2 or 3 hours, they make some money? Is it a contributing factor for you, Aisha?
Are we talking about the influencers
it
phenomenon, or
yeah, there could be influencers. There could also be part-time jobs. It could be maybe vocational jobs, like labor work that these young people want fast money, and the 2 or 3 hours they will have to sit in the classroom or maybe learn that course. They are out there and just cutting that few hours to make some dollars, and the next day they are not in school. They're taking that day to make some $100, and then you will see them in school the following day because maybe that job is available. Is it a factor contributing to young people not wanting to stay in the classroom?
I mean, this can be considered as the bad side of social medias, but I won't say bad, depends on the type of jobs, because we know that there's a big trap in it. Some jobs will be, presented as correct, but once the kids get involved in it, it has another signification behind. So I think that if it's a correct regular job, it's fine. But if it's a trap that leads kids into dangerous behaviors behind, I think that we should, be aware and
Okay, so now let's focus on what can be done to address these challenges that we are all talking about. Talking about school canteen, talking about social cash transfer and other support. What can be done to ensure that we have young people or kids staying in school and not dropping out of school? Beginning with you, Sahadatu.
Okay, so coming from Ghana, I would say that I mentioned earlier, so the school feeding program initiative that we have in Ghana, we have been advocating that it needs to be expanded to cover children in JHS. The interesting thing is that beyond JHS, where they transition to secondary school, there's free feeding there, but in the middle, at that JHS level, they have been left out. So we need to address them. We need to expand school feeding to that level also. And then recently, we monitored the implementation of some education initiatives in Ghana. We realized that there was government made an allocation for school infrastructure. Some districts have started, but we realized that districts that did not have deficits, infrastructure deficits, were receiving more money compared to districts that had very high infrastructure deficits. So our advocacy has centered on governments adopting an equitable way of financing education infrastructure. And then we're also looking at the design of education school buildings, so that any contract that is given out for a school building, it should make sure that it has a complete school. So the school being built should have a kindergarten, it should have primary school, and then JHS. It should come with washrooms for personal hygiene, because it's one of the reasons why some girls drop out of school. They must have washrooms, they must have changing rooms. Beyond infrastructure, there is also the need for, I mentioned the school placement system earlier, where students live in one region and then they are posted as day students to other regions. That inefficiency has to be remedied, has to be mitigated, so that students are posted to day schools in their communities. There's a policy that says that there's a 10 to 15 kilometer policy in school selection, so that if a student is selecting a day school, it should be within that radius where they can easily travel to school, so that they do not drop out.
Okay.
Then we go back to look at this right age enrollment campaign. I think it should be intensified, and then it should be scaled up to especially rural areas, so that parents in rural areas will realize the importance of education and then try to enroll their children early.
Okay.
So that they can progress.
Yes, I will get back to you, Sahadatu, very shortly. I will get back to you. Just something ran through my mind, considering what could be the ripple effect if West Africa or our respective countries continue to experience high rate of school dropout among these young people who are to become future leaders of these countries. Beginning with you, Ibrahim.
Okay, thank you very much for that. As you said, that something came over my mind. I think it was 2 days ago. I was watching Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso, and he told them we don't need any more Sharia laws. Burkina is going to Saudi Arabia to study Sharia law, because when you come back, what are you going to give to the population? That struck me, and the ripple effect of not having enough young people finishing education or learning skills. The problem is we, as I said earlier, we mistake having an education and learning certain skills that would develop the nation. We take them wrong, and that has affected us. Not having enough engineers, not having enough programmers, not having enough individuals that can create jobs. And that ripple effect, we're feeling it right now, as most of the food we import come from other countries. Because why? For decades, we have not been training our young people to be agroeconomists, to finish goods, right? The things you get from the farm, we're talking about, okay, going to the farm is not good. No, that's not the problem. Is educating these kids, education our population, that what you can bring from the farm, you can turn it into finished goods and you can feed your population. So that is one ripple effect, not having enough young people having skills that are necessary to enable our population to grow. So if we continue with the same archaic going to school just to read and write and not being able to, use our skills, in decades to come, we will still be poor. Decades to come, we will still be third world countries. Decades to come, we will still be consumers and not producers. So that will be the ripple effect. We're already feeling it now, since we gained our independence 50, 60 years ago. And if we continue not to enable our youth population to have necessary skills that will enable them to create jobs, that will enable them to change their immediate environment, we'll continue to feel the same ripple effects that you're asking about. Now, we're feeling it, we're seeing it. We're consumers and not producers, and that is the problem. We need to stand up and enable our youth, enable our population to be producers and not consumers. Thank you very much.
That's interesting for you, Aisha. How would you assess policies, maybe national policies or international policies, maybe efforts by NGOs? Are they forthcoming to ensure that young people in the rural areas are benefiting or are impacted by these policies?
I mean, let me just join my brother here about what he just said. For the policies, I think that maybe the system should be enhanced. We need to work on it. I'm not saying that what have been done since here is not good, but I think that it needs to be, enforced. We need to go back to the roots, check the causes, and then for each of them, create a new policy. It's about building new processes, not only for Senegal, but for all Africa. Because as I noticed, what the lady from Ghana said, the problems are similar in Senegal, in Ghana, in Liberia, and everywhere else. So I think that the policies need to be rewritten for all of us.
Okay, but Sahada, do you believe that these policies are not reinforced, or we really don't have them at all, just given the fact that they are on the paper?
Well, one of our major challenges, yes, we have very nice policies. In fact, we have too many policies. The problem comes in when we need to implement the policies. That's when the problem comes in. I do not know whether it's a problem of us not doing a proper policy implementation review to find out what needs to be done before we roll out these policies. Because we all know we have very, 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 very nice policies. But then when it gets to implementation, that is when the issues come in. And then another issue is that development partners are cutting down on funding to us. So this is the time for us as a people and then our government to set up and then try to find other innovative ways of financing our economy and then our education. And another issue too is that they say that he who feeds you will dictate your behavior. So usually when they are coming with these funds, there are conditions attached to it. I do not know to what extent these conditions address our local problems. That is why it is important for us to find innovative ways to fund our own programs, come up with our own indigenous programs that address our issues and then fund them. Karim, or is it Kamara, mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's Kamara.
To ask about the ripple effect. One of the dangerous effects of young people dropping out is the risk of conflict and instability. So you come to Ghana, and then the norm is that when our politicians, those that want to cause trouble, when they want to cause trouble in the country, they use some of these young people that do not have work because at some point they dropped out of school. They do not have work to do. So they are given a little token and then they go out and then they cause trouble. There's also the issue of armed robbery going on. There's the issue of, you mentioned earlier, whether it was okay that young people spend time to work 2 or 3 hours on the internet. One of the key problems we have in Ghana is young children abandoning school to go and then engage in betting. For some time now, for some time there was a trend that goes like school is a scam, because people didn't understand that they will go to school, they complete, and then they are unemployed, which is one of the issues we have in Ghana. there's high unemployment in Ghana. So young people finish school and they are still not able to get employment, which goes to buttress what Kamara said earlier, that we shouldn't just train them to read and write, but we should identify their talents and then nurture their skills so that they can have some skills. So at Africa Education Watch, one of our key advocacy campaign has been technical education. A government should invest in technical education if we want our youth to participate in the job market effectively. Yes.
Yep. All right.
So as I was saying, so conflict, we risk instability and then conflict if we do not end this phenomenon of school dropout.
Thank you so much, Sahadatu. Let's take a comment from the live Facebook feed right here. Yusuf Jalo says, hello there, great debate all the time. As you may know, education is a sustainable development goal. As of that, it should be democratized among learners, no matter where the school is located nationwide. What solutions do you propose specifically to the rural areas? I think he's asking a question to you, our guests in the studio. He believes that education should be democratized among the learners, and it also concerns where the school is located. But there's also an important question that I would love to add on to what Yusuf said. It's about the role of local leaders, because we discuss in the rural communities where local leaders are the voices of the people. They make decisions for the people. What are the role of these chiefs, those imams, those church leaders, the community youth chairman, the chairman of the community? What do they do in helping that we don't face the issue of poor infrastructure? We don't face the issue of a community member taking his or her children on the farm when school is in session. What can we do to address that situation, Ibrahim, quickly?
Thank you very much for that. The first thing you have to do is policies, making sure that they make policies that favor the young people to learn and to be educated and to give back to their community. The other thing is in terms of development, you have something they call PPP, a public-private partnership, and which is lacking in Africa. Most of these mining companies that come and they operate in rural communities, they have corporate social responsibility rights that they should give back to the community. So they come, they might take these resources, and at the end of the day, instead of giving back, building schools or giving scholarships to these young people, they instead find one or two leaders, they'll give a brown envelope, and that detrails the development of the entire community. So there has to deal with policy first, and at the end of the day, making sure that there are private and public partnerships that enable these rural communities to develop. Because if you check in Africa, the rural communities have all the wealth. That's where you find the gold, the diamond, all these mining companies, but they're the most deprived. They have bad roads, so it has to deal with policies.
Okay. That's right. Well, it's been a great time with you, our guests, our distinguished guests here on the show. Sahadatu, we want to thank you for availing your time to be on the show today. We really appreciate you, and we hope that you will be available another time to discuss another interesting topic. Thanks so kindly for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. To you, Ibrahim, thank you for coming. We really appreciate you for sharing your ideas with our listening public. Thank you.
Thank you very much as well for having me here.
All right. And to you, Aisha, we thank you as well. Perhaps you want to just leave a statement before you take leave of us.
All right. Thank you, Augustine. The pleasure were all mine. And maybe one last thing I would like to add. You talk about the public leaders. The politic leaders, you said, or the public leaders?
Your public policies or
Yeah, yeah.
or even leaders from rural areas.
Okay, when you go on the field in the rural areas, you notice that many boys leave school for Quranic studies. Maybe a better communication, some better policy could be created to make people understand that school doesn't prevent from learning Quran or any other religious thing they might want their kids to learn. So yes, I think that was my last point.
Well, thank you so much, Isa. We hope to have you another time.
Likewise, thank you.
All right, well, listeners and viewers, that's it on this edition of Take the Lead on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and online at WADR.org. It's been a great pleasure having you with us. Please join us next Friday for another live episode of this program. But remember to take the lead in shaping the discourse for the betterment of young people in Africa. My name is Augustine Cully. I will talk to you another time. Goodbye for now.
We thank you for listening to this program in Nigeria on Darling FM 107.3 Owerri, Southeast. We thank our listeners in Liberia on Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Nufa County, Kwakete Radio 100.9 FM, Bargan, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riversest, in Sierra Leone. We thank our listeners on African Young Voices, Freetown, Radio Bath 91.3 FM, Eastern Community Radio FM 101.9 Kenema. In Ghana, Radio Pod, Savannah Region, Reals FM 104.7 Wenchi. In the Gambia, on Numi FM 94.0 North Bank Region, Radio Veritas 102.